So we have with us Mr. Sadashi Nayak, the CEO of Big Bazaar. We've been hearing a lot of changes in Big Bazaar at this point, and the most prominent being the focus on the fashion segment.
Yes.
And recently the company has announced that a third of its revenues are going to come from fashion at Big Bazaar. So what is the roadmap for this target?
Sure. So I think Big Bazaar's essential philosophy has been bound by two principles. One, we will try and get as many new users into modern trade and modern trade consumption. And second, we will drive consumption across various categories. The move around fashion and FBB as a brand is again built on these two principles. So we really looked at the market and said, what has really changed? A, we all know that the country has become younger. We also know that if the incomes are rising, then the next category which will compete hand in hand or wallet to wallet along with technology would be fashion. The need for vanity, the need to look good, the need to feel good is definitely on the rise, and the fact that the country is becoming younger is only making it more and more prominent. Third, when you look at footprints, I think modern trade is today touching only few of the cities in the country, and we believe with a brand like Big Bazaar and FBB, we can possibly go to every other town which is more than 200,000 population. So that has been the essential thought around saying we need to explode the consumption on fashion, and hence we decided to kind of take this category far more seriously than what it was taken by other players in the industry. We're building a brand and making it far more sharper, a brand called FBB, which today will stand out for its own. It has already close to 30 standalone stores, and of course FBB is present in all the 170 odd, 160 odd Big Bazaars which we are already present. So this combination and the fact that we touch around 95 odd cities would make it a very explosive combination. We believe within fashion we are looking at three segments very distinctly. We're looking at the men's segment, we're looking at the ladies segment, looking at the kids segment.
So is this also a part of the company's concentration on private labels? And also, if you could take us through the significance of private labels within Big Bazaar and how much revenue or how much importance do they contribute to the overall business?
Sure. So I think first and foremost we refer to them as private brands because we are very proud of what we're creating inside Big Bazaar and honestly what the customers are creating for us. So we most of our garments in the fashion segment, and when we go into the home category and as well as in the food category, we have private brands which have their own distinct identity. And the whole idea is really to give them a definitive look and feel inside the store. We also take them out into our various communication. I think we've lined up one of the most clutter-breaking campaigns in the last 18 months for FBB, and that's only going to become stronger and stronger. So really private brands for us represents a way for us to really take the consumption the way we want. So winter wear we have identified as a segment which is extremely important in the country, but so far all the apparel retailers have given it a very functional approach. What we are really doing is making winter wear more fashionable and winter wear making it far more accessible.
At present, how much revenues would you be in percentage terms be getting from apparel alone in Big Bazaar?
So it will be upwards of 25%, and it keeps changing by the month based on the festival consumption, and there are stores which are almost hitting close to 40%.
So what kind of growth have you seen in the past in the apparel?
We are almost we are averaging almost 40% kind of a growth in apparel.
So do you see this 25% average going to a higher percentage in the near future?
So the percentages don't really matter to us. The way we thought of Big Bazaar is really it has three strong departments of fashion, which includes footwear, accessories, handbags. We have another department called home, and we have a department called food. Frankly, the mixes is just more a management accounting term. What we're really looking at internally is, are these three categories having their own distinctive path to growth? Are they identifying insights which are strong enough to kind of fuel up consumption for the next 4 years? And we seem to be there in most of the categories. The fact that we're present in so many cities and we have an early advantage in many of the cities is helping us. Layered with the fact that the future group has always believed in attaching itself to communities. I think that's kind of helping each of the categories grow. So to really respond to your question, the percentage is really an outcome. It's a management measure. What we're really looking at is three departments. Are they having their own strong path to growth? And we seem to be having that.
And which is the biggest at present of the three?
We almost have an equal contribution there, with food leading in some of the markets and fashion leading in many, but otherwise it's almost an equal contribution.
Is it true that even Future Group is looking at a model in which it's moving from hypermarkets to departmental stores?
Sure. Maybe I'm not the best person to elaborate on these terms. We believe Big Bazaar is a value departmental store. We use the word value because we always believed in getting more and more customers into the modern trade consumption fold. But essentially, we are really looking at the departments having their own path of growth. The moment you connote the word hypermarket, what typically comes to our mind is a Western model of long aisles, packed up with food, led by food. But out here we do recognize that Diwali is as much about mithai, which is as much about chocolates today. It's as much about creating a home clean, and most importantly, as much about meeting people and wearing good clothes.
You also had Big Bazaar, going back, also had the advantage of being a first mover in the retail segment.
Yeah.
But however, we have seen players like Reliance Retail come up and who have also achieved to an extent a higher scale. So how important do you think is scale in this particular business to survive in the market?
So I think the scale can be a very misleading term for any retailer. We define scale as how relevant is Big Bazaar in the mind and hearts of the consumers in that catchment. Because scale at times can be very large, can be very small. How I personally look at scale is, if you're present in, let's say, a catchment called OMR in Bangalore, how are we really sparking the imagination of customers there? How are we going to really connect to the customer? Because if you go and be one of the shoppers in that catchment, I don't think it's relevant to the shopper how large you are as a retailer. It's really relevant on what is the store doing for me? Is it meeting all my requirements? Is it sensitive to my convenience needs? Is it making sure that it kind of celebrates with me? And does it pamper me from time to time? I think so. We are all designed to think from the lens of the customer and the catchment. Scale for us is just a measure which comes incidentally, and the more and more we speak to consumers, we realize that the scale doesn't matter to them at all.
Consequential to this question, what is the expansion plan for the next 12 months?
Yeah, so I think we have an extremely robust expansion plan put up. I think the last two stores are heavy on my mind, and we opened a store in Agartala, where retail would say no man has gone before in terms of modern trade, and then there's another store which is opening up in Mandya in Karnataka. So I think, and there's one more store we just opened last week in Hyderabad. So really we looked at the top 10 cities, and we are having very sharp plans of saying we'll have multiple stores coming up. We have a whole set of 300,000 population cities, Agartala being one of them, and said, how do we going to really go back and dominate? Agartala, of course, is a very large town, but when we have towns like Tirunelveli, we have stores like Mandya, Hosur all lined up. So there's a very strong expansion plan for tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And what's really happened in the last 18 months is we've discovered a new magic formula for catering to the fashion requirements of the shopper, and FBB is a brand. The simple brief we have given to our teams is, wherever there's an MG road in a city, go and open up a store. So we have stores of FBB right from Mumbai to NCR, to a place called Bhimavaram in Andhra Pradesh, to a place we have two FBBs in the northeast. We have FBB in Madgaon in Goa. So really FBB is helping us redefine the experience in many. We have a FBB in Bhagalpur. So I think FBB is really helping us discover a very different India, which I'm sure many of the earlier FMCG retailers have done. But what we're really doing is making sure that we cater to a set of aspirations which possibly no other retailer will ever meet for the next quite a few years to come.
You have 30 standalone FBBs at present.
Yes.
And how many are already in pipeline?
We've got another 10 with clear visibility in the next 8 months, with clear visibility. We've made our own internal roadmap for another 50 odd FBBs, and I don't think all of them are signed as of today, but we are very clear where we're going to open them up. There's a team of 5 dedicated people who are only scouting properties for FBB in these various towns. So that's a very aggressive target which they've been given, to say that we should reach a target of 100 FBBs in as short a period as we can.
You want to increase the prominence of the fashion segment in the business.
Yeah.
Would it by any chance make sense to acquire a brand in, which could add value to this for Big Bazaar?
So I'll say from my limited window of handling FBB, I think the two insights which we have driven out of FBB really is make sure that you kind of get your merchandise act right, which I think there's a very strong team in the back, both designers, buyers and quality people who are churning out some great merchandise for us. And second is really make sure that you have your property act right. I mean, FBB ultimately needs to be in a place which is easily accessed and possibly is in the marketplace. So to us, if these two things are being met, everything is okay. So currently, even within our own teams, as I shared with you, the desire to reach 100 store, I don't see the need for us to do anything else other than keeping these two things intact. As far as any other acquisition is concerned, I think there are strategic people in the group who would be doing it on their own accord. But for us, really, it's about saying, to meet our ambition for the next 3 years, we seem to be having both the enablers in place as of now.
Within the company?
Within the company, absolutely in the company.
Okay. So also the expansion plan that you discussed, what is the kind of investment that, or the capital expenditure that would go into?
So I think we normally end up spending close to both the capital expenditure and the working capital. We end up spending close to 2,000 rupees a square foot. A typical store for us would be anywhere, a Big Bazaar would be anywhere between 40,000 square feet, and we would have FBB around 6,000 square foot. So I think that, so in terms of expansion, based on number of outlets, this will keep changing, but roughly 2,000 rupees per square foot is the money which we reserve for every expansion.
And is real estate becoming more and more of a challenge for the retail sector?
We've never seen it that way. I think at least what our experience has been, people do recognize that the brand and its ability to pull in people will be more important. So we've really not seen a challenge in that sense. I think the real growth area would be to make sure that we have enough places enough sizing of stores to really make it happen. So if you would like to say that, at times we do get stores which are multiple storage, linking them up at times becomes a task for us, but we seem to have found our own Indian way of doing it. None of our stores are alike, but our teams are designed to have almost think open-minded, open-ended in terms of design thinking. So frankly, we've never seen real estate challenge because we've not got any predefined principle to say only this should be our property. I think we've managed to have very large single floor plates. We also managed to have very short floor plates going up to 3-4 floors. Given that the fact that our DNA has been always to adapt and go with the flow, I think we've never seen that being a challenge for us to expand.
So will we see home fashion also as prominent as the fashion segment in terms of business and revenues?
Yes, and I think we start calling them home fashion to begin with. And if you see, I think it's still a name which is lumpy. If you go deep inside, we have identified 25 subcategories which start right from a kitchen mat to an apron, to a bed sheet, to a bed cover, to a pillow, and to a cushion, and to a carpet. I think we've just taken around 25 subcategories in them. Out of 25, at least 20 of them are very firm growth plan where we're kind of expanding the range. We're trying to make sure that we have in the good, better, best. We're creating the right experience. I wish you were able to go and see some of our stores. We really tried to create a very different level of imagery and experience in the home segment. So to respond to your question, yes, I think the fact that we're calling it home fashion, we do recognize that after the consumer is going to look good, she's going to make sure that the home looks good, and we are making sure that we are not leaving any stone unturned to kind of sell that experience and create that aspiration inside our stores.